This video will provide instruction on how to add details and how to paint your mask. Step 1, take your jug out of the mold. Do not throw the jug away, but save it for later. We will use these again next year. Now that you have your mold, cut away any edges that you don't like. Frayed edges, make them smooth, and make the shape of your mask the way you want it to be. If you're making a Venetian style mask and you need larger eye holes, please come and see me and I'll have a tool you can use and I'll show you how to use it at my desk. Once you have everything cut away and it looks exactly the way you want it to be, get ready to add paint. Go to the back of the room and get a paper plate for your paint palette. Only start with the first color that you need to color in the background of your mask. For me, I'm making a ragdoll, so I've chosen a light tan color for my entire surface of the mask. Sometimes this paint can be a little hard to spread, so I add a little water to my brush when I paint. As I go, I only use a little and I add more paint when I need it. This is to help avoid wasting paint, because if you use too much and the color dries out, you won't have any other colors to use when it's time to finish your mask. So make sure that you are only using a little bit of paint at a time, and if you need more, continue squirting it. A little water does help it spread more easily. Avoid using too much water because if you do, it will actually cause your mask to get soggy and it might break apart. Cover the entire surface of your mask and give it time to dry. At least 10 minutes should be enough before you start adding additional details or colors. When you're done, wash your brush at the sink. Wipe it clean and put it away. Then you will need to select different brushes if you're working with smaller spaces. You will need smaller tipped brushes for fine details. A larger brush covers a larger space better, but if you're working in a small area, I would pick a different brush at a smaller size, like this. While you are waiting for your mask to dry, look for things like buttons, feathers, wires, paper, things you want to attach to your mask for the details. This is a great time to collect those items that you think you want to add. Now, the first rule I have when adding additional items, they always need to have a purpose. Don't just glue something on your mask because it's something to glue on. You need to think about the design first. So although I found that pink button and I liked it, I thought twice about using it on my mask, and instead I'm going to use paint. Now that I've selected my objects, I'm going to glue them on using hot glue or a crafting style glue that will hold very firmly. I'll have that glue in the back of the room, and I'll have a hot glue station also set up in the back of the room for you to use. I'll discuss hot glue safety in class. Sometimes it's helpful to attach a button with a stick instead of your finger because if you touch your finger to the glue, it can burn your finger. So be very careful when you're using hot glue and avoid touching any part of the gun, the metal portion, with your finger. It will burn it. And avoid putting your finger directly in extremely hot glue. It does burn, and I'll show you the safety tips in class. Once you have those items glued on, you are ready to paint. After you've glued the details on, select the color of paint you need for your details. I am using black, pink, and red, and remember to squirt the paint as you go so you avoid wasting it. Now that your mask is completely dry, you're ready to add the final details. You can do this with hot glue or craft glue. I'm very careful with how I glue this hair on. I'm careful with how I touch the yarn. In class, I would prefer you use a popsicle stick to press down those parts that you're uncertain to touch with hot glue. I don't want you to get burned. For this hair, I tied a knot to yarn and glued it onto the back of my mask. It did have a little trouble sticking, so I needed to glue the yarn on the front as well. Let it set to dry for just a minute before you try anything like braiding or tying the hair in a knot. Give it a little bit of dry time. Once I have the mask the way I want it to look, I cut away any parts I don't want sticking out. And now I'm going to go in and add a bow and braid the hair to make it look like a pigtail. Using a pointed stick, I find where I can see from my mask by putting it on my face, and I take that pointed stick, it's almost like a toothpick, and I'm going to poke the hole right where I think I'll be able to see out of it. It's hardly noticeable. And I'll also poke 2 holes on the sides to add a string.